Hello and welcome to another episode of Great Women in Compliance with Hemma, Lomax and Luisa, produced by the Compliance Podcast Network and sponsored by Corporate Compliance Insights. Our roundtable guests today are Patricia Marinho and Maria Luisa Signorini, or Malu. They are both here to talk to us about the future of financial crime prevention and to explore innovation and technology in anti-money laundering controls. I'm joined here by my lovely GWIC co-host Lisa Fine, who I will ask to get us started and welcome our guest.
Thank you. That's the first time in a while we've hosted together. It's so much fun, and I'm so excited to hear from both of our guests. So, Patricia and Malu, can you briefly introduce yourselves and share a little bit about your background in financial crime prevention and compliance? And Patricia, we'll start with you.
All right, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Patricia Marinho. I'm thrilled to be here today with you all. First, I would like to thank Hemma and Luisa for this opportunity to join this discussion of such a relevant, invoking topic: technology impact on compliance and financial crime prevention. My background: I'm a lawyer from Brazil, where I began my career in computer law, a field that I was still in infants at the time. That experience led me to pursue further studying abroad. I decided to choose to go to Berkeley to study a little bit more about intellectual property. And later on, I decided to do my LLM program here in the University of Miami. My transition into compliance came in the early 2000s when financial regulations were shifting rapidly. I became deeply involved with ACAMS, contributing to the industry discussion, organizing conference with them because I was part of the ACAMS South Florida chapter. So I was very involved with the ACAMS at this moment. One of my mentors, one of the founders of ACAMS, so helped me a lot in my career, leading me to a compliance leadership roles across financial institutions. Over the year, I had served as Chief Compliance Officer in multiple financial firms, overseeing regulatory strategy and risk management. Most recently, at Willis Towers Watson, I was responsible for compliance across Latin America, Caribbean, and Central America, before stepping into the global role focused on sales, client management, and transformations initiatives. Currently, I am the Global Head of Compliance for HRB, a global bank where I lead our compliance framework, ensuring we meet international regulatory standards while supporting strategic growth. My career has always been at the intersection of compliance, technology, and financial service, and I am particularly focused on how innovation is reshaping risk management and regulatory expectations. One of the new things exciting that I'm doing currently is in this last year is I started to do coaching. I work also with a company called Charisma, where one of the services we provide is professional coaching. It has been an incredible experience helping others grow in their career, navigating challenge and develop their skills in compliance and leadership. I am excited today discussing and looking forward to exchange ideas in the future of compliance and technology with everybody here. Thank you.
And Malu, a little bit about you?
Sure. Well, thank you for this amazing opportunity to discuss these new topics. It's a pleasure being here with you today. I am a litigation lawyer as a background with a bachelor's degree in corporate law at University of São Paulo, also Brazil. I have a specialization in corporate banking, finance, and securities law, also in Brazil, and a master's degree at European Common Market School at Bolzano, Italy, where I spent 5 years. I have more than 20 years of experience working in law firms and legal departments of major international financial institutions located in Brazil, such as HSBC, UBS, Western Union, and more recently, also Bank of America, in compliance and AML areas. About 15 years ago, I decided to make a new career transition to compliance and AML area in view of the regulation environment change, and I have been working as a specialist in this area ever since. I have CAMS certifications, and I'm also certified regulatory and compliance professional at FINRA from Wharton University. Now, I can tell you that I have a deep understanding of the compliance and AML regulatory environment in Brazil, with experience in setting up related programs, supporting the business to develop new products, defining strategic compliance and reputational risks, transaction monitoring activities, and others. And I'm sure that all this technical news and this new environment will bring so much change and challenge to the compliance and AML environment in Brazil and globally speaking, of course.
By the way, Liz and Hemma, I met Malu at Wharton.
Yeah,
Then very good.
All right, that would be my question. Like, how did you guys meet? So that's lovely to know. And what a magnificent array of deep experience in the financial sectors that you both bring to you, decades of experience together. So I wanted to really dive into anti-money laundering and the challenges that we see today. Before we get to how we solve them with innovation and technology, what are we looking at, Malu? Let's start with you. What are we looking at as the biggest challenges in financial crime prevention today?
Well, I understand that the major challenges are the increasing sophistication of criminal tactics. Many of them are related to fraud and trade finance. The vast volume of data involved to be analyzed, and the evolving regulatory landscape. Currently, it's very difficult to a small compliance team of risk managers and transaction monitoring specialists to deal with so much information with the required quality of the analysis to prevent efficiently money laundering. So I understand that this new technological topics will bring much effectiveness to the compliance.
Yes, that makes so much sense, Manu. I mean, look, one of the biggest problems we have is collecting the data and then making sure the data is good quality and then figuring out what to do with it. Patricia, let me ask you to weigh in there. What have you seen traditionally as the struggles we have in keeping up with modern financial crime tactics?
Well, I think it's exactly also big organizations. What they have different systems across, because how they grow generally by new institutions. No, that's the way that most of them growing. When they buy new institutions, in order for you to implement systems, your core systems for your own institution, it can take a few years and it's very expensive. So most of the institutions, the global one, the large, so it's like if it is a big institutions, but they work kind of isolate. So that systems, a lot of time, they don't talk with each other. So this is the big transformations that's going now on in different companies. Okay, and this is what I did in the last 3 years with the previous company that I was to consider which could be the core system for the institution and make sure the other systems around the world is able to talk with this core system. And then we could really, and also work on the data and make sure we have good data to help compliance, but not only compliance, the business also, because if the business wants to do cross sales, for instance, I was working in this area, sales and client management, you need to have this good data. And also for compliance, it's important to have those good data and the systems integrated, talking between them. Otherwise, you're going to do, for instance, the know your clients in the beginning of one system, and then you're going to have to activate the same know your clients, maybe when you are doing a payment to certain companies. But if all the systems, they are integrate, they talk between each others, from the moment that you enter one client's one system, the other system knows what's going on. If that client had a hit before any payment, the system he already know. So I don't know if it is difficult, the example that I'm giving, but it's an ecosystem that needed to be all integrated.
Yes, and it's so common that it's not, isn't it? That's the problem. It's so common that we don't have that. Lisa, I'll ask you to ask some questions about the role of technology in solving this, because it's a behemoth task, even outside financial institutions.
I mean, I know when you were saying that, you about that. It is everywhere right now. How are we using technology and what is the role? But Patricia, I want to start with you with how has technology changed the landscape of AML compliance in recent years?
So I will say I think technology is changing a lot, and one of the reasons that we have now AI. So AI has significantly improved. Let's again, because I'm in a bank, I'm gonna give examples in the part of, for instance, onboarding, transaction monitoring, risk detections. So, for instance, traditional onboarding require multiple departments reviewing application. Clients go online, let's say it's a fintech even, or a normal bank. Clients go and do an application for a bank. So that application has to be reviewed by another department to make sure that all the information that the compliance need to receive was filled out by the client. All the documentations required was provided by the client. And also, if the documentation is not expired. So AI can automate all these because AI in seconds can verify all these, send a message to the client, maybe even before he submit, is depend how you decide to set up your system there. Or when he submit the application, I can review in a section and immediately send an email to the client saying, listen, your passport was expired. You are missing to fill out this answer these questions from your application. Please provide these informations immediately. So this can really expedite the experience of the client, but also the time for the onboarding. Okay, because a lot of time those applications goes to an operation department who's gonna review, will in few hours go back to the client, but not necessarily the client is immediately in front of the computer if it is few hours later. So if everything is fast, the clients already know what is the issue, they can immediately reply to the process of the onboarding. So start also another issue that I see, static rules. Currently, we have static rules often missing sophisticated money laundering scheme, such as structuring across multiple accounts. So AI is able to detect all these abnormal patterns beyond simple transactions thresholds there. For instance, one of the things that we implemented and I think was revolutionary at the bank is the facial recognitions. Okay, so synthetic identify fraud and is growing threat. AI powered facial recognition ensure identity legitimacy. An example of this will be a client upload a passport for the know your client during the application. So I can immediately scan, match the passport with the real face recognition, preventing impersonation fraud. So traditional compliance teams normally they have to do very manual checks, functions list, adverse medias, which is very slow and sometimes inefficient, and can take if it is for especially core, can take sometimes 2 or 3 days. It's not fast at all. So I could definitely automate these checks in seconds. What else? SAR. Another example could be SAR. I could detect those inefficiencies, the alerts, and detect and fill out an application for SAR, generating this SAR for, of course, after IML officer review and make the decision if they want to submit this SAR or not. But a lot of things, imagine how everything can all this process can be expedited and we'll have much less errors that currently we may care at the moment because it's very manual.
Perfect. And Maru, we were just talking, and Patricia gave a bunch of examples of different significant technological advancements or others. Are there any other things that come to you top of mind about that? Or we could move along and talk a little bit more about AI and machine learning.
Well, I'd just like to add the importance of AI with regard to the transaction monitoring process. Because just like she said, we can identify, we'll be able to identify after setting up this EA technological enhancements, uh, so many new possibilities and anomalies as well, right? So we'll be able to reduce the number of the volume of alerts. And for an analyst, this is a dream coming true, you know. And with quality, of course, and more time to analyze it and to prevent any kind of suspicious activity, and that's it. And I think she's pretty covered everything.
Yeah, so it's so exciting, isn't it? And what we can, in terms of efficiency and maybe, hopefully, you said, Patricia, accuracy and speed when it comes to the service we're providing. Obviously, you've got a lot of customers to get through for the onboarding, like you said. But I'm wondering, what do we know about the effectiveness of this technology to actually help us detect and prevent financial crime? So it's one thing to do things faster. It's one thing to make life easier for us. But how are we using AI or even machine learning to help detect and prevent financial crime? Malo, I'll start with you.
Well, I understand that once we make the setup of this operational system, whatever it is, it will start making possible the addition of many different types of new alerts, right? Of types of wrongful undoing and this sort of stuff, whether related to transaction monitoring, whether related to, I mean, trade and finance and foreign exchange operations and etc. So I think that we still don't know the entire capability of this, right? And we'll kind of work jointly in order to see, I mean, the market as a whole, in order to understand what types of the perpetrators are using and how we can prevent the money laundering. Does it make sense?
Yeah, so that makes perfect sense. There's lots to learn, and we're probably in stages. I always think of you all in financial regulation as ahead of the curve sometimes, because you have regulation. And I'm interested to see where we are today and where we can go, and you've explained that beautifully. Patricia, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about what you've seen in terms of how we can trust AI and machine learning to help us in this way. Obviously, trust is a big question on everyone's mind when it comes to leveraging AI for compliance. So if you've got examples of how you've been able to use AI and machine learning in a way that your company feels comfortable with that?
Well, the AI is something that this is a new project. Okay, currently, bank we are using patient recognition, yes, but the monitoring part and the onboard, this is the new project that we want to complete before the end of the year. So I'm being talk with different companies to review this. If the questions is, can we trust? It's like if you hire a new person to be working your team, okay, and you have to training. So thinking that you are a high-end junior person, but it's super smart, you're gonna learn it very fast, but you're gonna have to make sure they are really learning what you want and how you want. So I think we always gonna need to have the compliance there or the MLOps in reviewing what they are doing, making decisions especially. I can be very helpful in terms, as I said, to detect anomalies beyond the traditional rule-based systems. They can build risk profile based on user behavior, for instance. This is things that I believe they really can do it, because if you start to review different systems around that they are creating, that it's involving AI, it's fascinating. It's definitely fascinating. For instance, I'm working with one here. It's for review contracts. It's amazing what they can do. So that you can put a contract there, and sometimes even comparing the contract of your company and what the other company would like you to sign, and ask them to match and see what is the difference, what is the risks there. So of course, Some contracts sometimes have what? 25 page titles is time consuming. So they're going to highlight for you, okay, what you should really be careful and take a look. But it's you who going to make the decisions in the end, and you who come back with the feedback for the business. So I think, yeah, this is the begin. I don't think a lot of companies is still using AI, especially because we still need also more regulations regarding to this, right? But if we can trust, yes, as long as you're monitoring it. It's about also knowing what they are learning.
Yes, I love that metaphor of the new employee almost on probation that needs some training.
It's feeling.
Lisa, what are we thinking about the regulation around this, though? What do we need to think about now? I'll leave that to you.
Small question for me, but I mean, especially right now in a very regulatory uncertain time, in a nutshell. But one thing that does seem consistent, regardless, is that regulatory bodies and governments all over the world are encouraging the use of technology, technology tools in AML and other areas. But what are you seeing in terms of global regulations in the evolution of that for AI or any other recent innovations? Patricia, we'll start with you, and Malu, if you have anything to add on, let us know.
What I see the regulators in general, like at first, FATFA, they encourage AI integrations in terms of AML monitoring, risk assessment. But I see some regulators already incentivizing this also. But as long as you are able also to, again, document what you are teaching the AI, because you need to make sure that, well, tomorrow, if some things go wrong, you'll say, well, was AI? But you need to document how you are training AI. You need to have a process in place. Everything has to be documented and proved. And that's why you have to continue to be monitoring AI. I think this is the expectation of the regulators from what I understood in companies. You guys can go ahead. Definitely, you can have more efficiency and effective process in place, especially in the area of AML, even for the business, not only for the compliance. However, make sure that you document your rationality and how you are teaching AI.
Patricia, that made me smile because sometimes you think the more things change, the more some of them stay the same, because the phrase document, document, document never seems to go away from what we do in any component of this. Mary, what about you?
Yeah, I totally agree because the regulations are very interested on having the AI being used in a transparent, fair, and compliant with existing laws, right? And it seems that Singapore and UK are already issuing some laws in this regard. But on the other hand, there is still taking, well, I cannot say baby steps, but we are still in the beginning. I understand that the regulatory environment is going to change a lot right after we start effectively using this new technology tools, right? Because one thing is set up the regulation based on what is expected. And another thing is review this regulation after the AI is duly implemented by the financial institutions and fintechs and whoever wants to do that, right, in the near future.
I love that, Mally. Thank you for that. It's really interesting to think about the future then, right? I mean, we don't know. I always say we have to manage for uncertainty. We don't know where the regulations are going to go, but there's certainly a trend that we're going to be asked to use AI responsibly and also use AI to make sure that prevent crime and that we have responsible business growth. So very exciting about that. I just want to ask you about the future anti-money laundering. I mean, you described some of the parts of the life cycle of a transaction that we need to focus on. Do you think that anti-money laundering or financial crime prevention will ever be fully automated? I think I'm asking, and I'll start with you, Mano. Do you think it's coming for your job?
Well, I think that I can enhance in everything, but cannot replace. So we need woman decision making there. And I alone cannot assess intent. Compliance professions provide oversight And I think at this moment, the full automation would require that significant legal adjustment. So now I think the woman decision making, it's very important. We're gonna continue to be, yeah.
And Malu, if AI and ML does help us automate some of this stuff, what's your vision for what the human can do now because they've freed up their time? What's the future vision here?
Well, I understand that first of all, we have to understand the complexity and adaptability of the criminal tactics, right? And for this, we need the human understanding, review, and feeling. We need the judgment and interpretation of the regulatory compliance and legal frameworks. We need also ethical considerations and the collaboration. So, I mean, we cannot leave the machine learning or the AI do everything. There must be a human behind all of that in order to set up the system. It's still a system, right? And we have to manage, keep on managing its performance. So it's right.
So I'm hearing that our jobs are safe. Your jobs are safe. Yeah.
Who's still there to document?
Fair. He's doing the documentation for sure. Now, Patricia, so let me give you a crystal ball now. You get to look into the future 5 to 10 years from now. What would you like to see by way of AML technology that maybe you don't have today, that's not on the horizon, but you think this is going to be the pivotal piece of technology that will help us in this fight against financial crime?
Well, I think the technology with the AI will enable more fast proceed, especially AML compliance, and will help us to enhance to detect fraud and beyond tactics authentications. This is how I see it in the maximum of 5 years. But it's not even less because I think this is being very fast. I mean, this is really changing very quickly, very fast.
Right. And we didn't really talk about it, but it's not just about, looking for red flags and transactions. This involves things like modern slavery and terrorism financing, really important work. And as the world gets more complicated, we want to make sure that we're keeping up. So I really appreciate the work you're doing and very excited to hear about the technology. So Lisa, over to you.
Well, one of the things that maybe will go back to technology, but may not, is thinking about what piece of advice would each of you give to compliance professionals, and particularly those like us who don't speak AML the way you do. So can you tell us some tip you'd have to deal with this evolving landscape? I'll start with you, Patricia.
With me? Okay. So in a world where regulations and technology are constantly evolving, my advice will be simply stay curious, never stop learning, and always adapt. Compliance is not just following rules, it's about to understand the landscape, anticipating risk, and turning challenge into opportunity. So I personally see a lot of opportunities now. So keep reading, attending conference, and engage in discussions. There are many compliance groups where you can exchange ideas and learn from peers. You don't always need to reinvent the wheels when others have valuable insights to share. So I believe in network. So building a strong network and find a mentor can be incredible valuable in navigating this field successfully.
Okay. And before I turn it over to Malu, where can people reach you if they want to follow your work or connect after catching up today, learning this much?
LinkedIn, Patricia Marinho.
Hey, perfect. And Malu, now we want your piece of advice and where people can reach out to you.
Well, it's very difficult to add something to what Patricia just said, I think that she covered everything. And with regard to my contact, also my personal email, which is Maria, LKISG, at gmail.com, or LinkedIn.
Also. Yeah, my personal mail is marinhod@gmail.com.
Wow. If people really want to find you, they will be getting you all the time. And I just have to say, when Hemma reached out to me about joining this panel, I was so excited to get to meet both of you in person and to learn more about this topic. And this did not disappoint. And I'm just so thrilled that you joined us in the Compliance Podcast Network and Corporate Compliance Insights, all of our people who work so well with us, and for you also. Thank you so much for joining us and for joining the Great Women in Compliance podcast. We are so honored to have you here.
No, thank you for the invitation. Thanks a lot. It was a great joy to talk to you today and meeting you. Highly.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It was fantastic. I'm very happy to be here and exchange and learning also here. Thank you.